What does it take to create a masterpiece? For some directors, it's not just about calling the shots, it's about risking everything. These visionaries push boundaries, shatter limits, and sometimes even put their own lives on the line to bring their stories to life. From braving the unforgiving depths of the Amazon jungle to battling sub-zero conditions in the Arctic, these filmmakers are not just telling stories, they're living them. They demand authenticity, intensity, and raw reality, no matter the cost. Today, we're diving into the world of cinema's most extreme directors, the ones who defy the impossible to create the unforgettable. So, buckle up, hit that subscribe button, and let's get into it. If there's anyone who embodies the very definition of extreme, it's Werner Herzog. This legendary filmmaker doesn't just tell stories, he lives them, often blurring the line between art and obsession. And perhaps no project captures his relentless drive better than his 1982 masterpiece, Fitzcarraldo. The film tells the story of Brian Sweeney Fitzgerald, an eccentric rubber baron determined to drag a massive steamship over a mountain to access uncharted territory in the Peruvian jungle. But Herzog's obsession with authenticity turned the making of the film into a real-life epic as wild and dangerous as the story itself. While most directors might settle for special effects or miniature models, Herzog had other plans. No tricks, no shortcuts. We'll move the ship for real. He scoured the Peruvian rainforest for the perfect filming location, a task in itself that felt almost as impossible as the story he was trying to tell. The only suitable spot was hundreds of miles from civilization, accessible only by boat or plane. Remote? Sure. Impractical? Absolutely. But Herzog wasn't about letting something as trivial as logistics stop him. And then came the true madness. Herzog insisted on physically hauling a 320-ton steamship up a 40-degree incline over a mountain. Not a prop, not a lightweight replica, a real, enormous ship. No CGI, no visual effects, just brute force, determination, and a dream that most would call insanity. To pull off this Herculean task, Herzog enlisted a team of hundreds of local workers and the expertise of a Brazilian engineer to create an intricate pulley system. But even with modern engineering, the process was painstaking, dangerous, and almost doomed to fail. The rainforest itself became an antagonist. Oppressive heat, torrential rain, disease, and injury plagued the crew. There were even reports of death threats against Herzog from his own team, who thought the project was cursed. And yet, somehow, Herzog pulled it off. The ship made it over the mountain. The film was completed, and Fitzcarraldo went on to become one of the most remarkable cinematic achievements of all time. For Herzog, the act of making the film wasn't just about storytelling. It was about confronting nature, testing human limits, and proving that the impossible is only impossible if you're unwilling to try. In his own words, I live my life, or I end my life, with this project. Few directors have taken such extreme risks for their art, and that's why Werner Herzog deserves his spot as one of the most uncompromising filmmakers in history. When it comes to crazy directors, few can rival the legendary Francis Ford Coppola and his 1979 masterpiece, Apocalypse Now. This film isn't just a movie, it's a descent into madness both on screen and behind the scenes. Based on Joseph Conrad's novella Heart of Darkness, Coppola, along with screenwriter John Milius, reimagined the story by transplanting its setting from the Congo River to the chaos of the Vietnam War. But Apocalypse Now wasn't just a war film. It was an uncompromising attempt to capture the psychological horrors of war and the darkest recesses of the human soul. Coppola once said, "My film is not about Vietnam, it is Vietnam." And in his quest to achieve this vision, he almost destroyed himself. The project of Apocalypse Now was a cinematic odyssey plagued by disasters. Shooting in the jungles of the Philippines, Coppola faced typhoons, illness, budget overruns, and even the threat of financial ruin. At one point, he mortgaged his own house to keep the project afloat. But for Coppola, this wasn't just filmmaking, it was a test of will. Coppola's obsession with perfection led him to partner with visionary cinematographer Vittorio Storaro, whose acid-drenched visuals gave the film its haunting, hallucinatory quality. Together, they utilized the 2.35 to 1 aspect ratio of 35mm film to craft vast, panoramic shots that captured the terrifying landscapes of the Vietnam War, dense jungles, fiery napalm strikes, and surreal skies that seemed to melt into madness. To amplify the film's feverish tone, Coppola and Storaro employed saturated earth tones and yellow highlights, creating a sickly, burnt-out aesthetic that mirrored the psychological toll of war. Lens flares, sweat-soaked close-ups, and deliberately slow, dreamlike camera work gave the film an eerie, oppressive quality, as if the jungle itself was alive and suffocating its inhabitants. The visuals were so striking that they became a character in their own right, pulling audiences into the nightmare. Adding to the epic scale was extensive aerial photography, which showcased the jaw-dropping production design by Dean Tavoularis. The film's infamous helicopter scenes, including the legendary Ride of the Valkyries sequence, weren't just spectacular, they were a chilling reminder of the destructive grandeur of war. These visuals, combined with Storaro's use of light and shadow, gave Apocalypse Now a sense of overwhelming, almost mythological dread. But the madness didn't end with the visuals. The production was notorious for spiraling out of control. Martin Sheen, who played Captain Willard, suffered a near-fatal heart attack on set, while Marlon Brando showed up overweight and underprepared, forcing Coppola to rewrite entire scenes on the fly. The sheer chaos of the shoot mirrored the story's descent into darkness, blurring the line between reality and fiction. Despite, or perhaps because of, its insane production, Apocalypse Now became one of the most iconic films ever made. It premiered at the Cannes Film Festival in 1979, where it received a 10-minute standing ovation. To this day, it remains a testament to Coppola's audacity, determination, and willingness to risk everything in pursuit of his vision. Francis Ford Coppola didn't just make a war movie, he created a cinematic fever dream that pushed everyone involved to their limits. Few directors would dare to go as far or as deep into madness as Coppola did, and that's what makes him one of the most extreme filmmakers of all time. If there's one director who can truly be called the king of perfect madness, it's Stanley Kubrick. With The Shining, 1980, Kubrick didn't just direct a horror film, he orchestrated a cinematic nightmare, obsessing over every detail to trap audiences in a world of psychological terror. Kubrick was known for his meticulous nature, and The Shining exemplifies this obsession. To create a haunting atmosphere, he used wide, tracking shots to emphasize the Overlook Hotel's endless, empty corridors. These expansive settings gave the audience a false sense of space, only to turn that freedom into a suffocating trap. The tension was heightened by Kubrick's use of the Steadicam, a groundbreaking innovation at the time, which allowed him to glide through the hotel's halls with eerie precision. This pioneering camera technique wasn't just about aesthetics, it was about putting viewers inside the unsettling story, forcing them to feel like they were wandering the hotel alongside Jack Torrance. But Kubrick's genius didn't stop at visuals. His attention to detail bordered on obsessive. He famously shot over 100 takes for simple scenes, pushing his actors to their psychological limits to extract raw, genuine performances. Shelley Duvall, who played Wendy Torrance, suffered so much under his relentless direction that she became physically ill and started losing her hair during production. Kubrick wanted Wendy to appear genuinely terrified, and he achieved it. Not through acting, but by inducing real fear. Jack Nicholson's iconic performance as Jack Torrance is another reason The Shining remains a genre benchmark. Nicholson's unnerving energy, even in calm moments, turned him into a ticking time bomb. But Kubrick's portrayal of Jack wasn't just Nicholson's genius. It was the result of Kubrick's painstaking collaboration. For example, the now iconic "Here's Johnny" scene was Nicholas's improvisation, but it only happened after countless takes, and Kubrick pushing him to the edge. The Overlook Hotel itself became a character in the film, thanks to Kubrick's obsessive crafting of its visuals. The unsettling patterns of the carpet, the unnatural symmetry of the rooms, and the hauntingly sterile ballroom all combined to create a space that felt both vast and claustrophobic. A paradox that mirrors the film's themes of isolation and insanity. The result? A horror movie that terrifies not with gore, but with atmosphere and psychological dread. Kubrick didn't just make The Shining memorable, he redefined what horror could be by blending groundbreaking technical innovation with his obsessive attention to detail. He created a masterpiece that continues to haunt audiences decades later. Now, if Kubrick's madness was rooted in perfectionism, James Cameron's brand of extreme comes from his willingness to risk life and limb for his vision. Known for his groundbreaking blockbusters like Aliens and The Terminator, Cameron has always been a pioneer, constantly pushing the boundaries of technology and storytelling. But with his 1989 underwater thriller The Abyss, he didn't just innovate, he dove headfirst into danger, almost paying the ultimate price. Cameron's obsession with creating immersive, authentic settings led him to film The Abyss in an abandoned nuclear power plant in rural Gaffney, South Carolina. The site housed two massive water tanks, one holding 7.5 million gallons of water, making it one of the largest underwater filming locations ever built. For Cameron, this wasn't just a set, it was a new reality. The production was nothing short of grueling. To capture the underwater scenes, Cameron required his cast and crew to train as scuba divers, spending hours submerged in freezing water. The actors had to wear helmets equipped with two-way communication devices, but this cutting-edge technology often malfunctioned, leaving them disoriented and vulnerable. Ed Harris, who played the lead role, later admitted that he almost drowned during one of the scenes, and he reportedly broke down in tears after filming wrapped. Cameron himself wasn't immune to the dangers. In a harrowing incident described in a 2009 article for the Los Angeles Times, Cameron nearly drowned while filming. He had strapped 40 pounds of weight to his body to stay steady with operating the camera underwater, but when his oxygen supply ran out, the safety diver tasked with assisting him panicked and abandoned him. Cameron had to rip off his weights and swim to the surface on his own, narrowly escaping death. Despite the chaos and danger, Cameron's vision paid off. The underwater sequences in The Abyss are breathtakingly immersive, capturing both the beauty and terror of the deep ocean. He used innovative lighting techniques to create an otherworldly glow, making the water itself feel alive. The film also showcased groundbreaking visual effects, including the famous water tentacle scene, an early use of CGI that paved the way for future blockbusters like Terminator 2 and Avatar. Cameron's willingness to push boundaries and himself earned The Abyss an Academy Award for Best Visual Effects and cemented his reputation as a filmmaker who stops at nothing to achieve his vision. For Cameron, filmmaking isn't just an art, it's an adventure, one that often comes with incredible risks and rewards. When it comes to extreme filmmaking, few can rival George Miller's Mad Max Fury Road. Picture this: months spent in the unforgiving Namibian desert, orchestrating one of the most relentless car chases in cinema history, all with minimal CGI and jaw-dropping real stunts. Miller didn't just make a film, he created a 2-hour adrenaline rush that redefined action movies. Unlike many directors who rely on digital effects, Miller pushed practical stunts to the absolute limit. He built over 150 custom vehicles, each uniquely designed for destruction. From Furiosa's war rig to the flame-throwing guitar on the doof wagon, they weren't just props. They were fully functional machines tearing across the desert at breakneck speeds, performing stunts so outrageous they felt like a fever dream. To bring this chaotic vision to life, Miller assembled elite stunt crews and technical artists who performed death-defying feats like high-speed pole swings and mid-air collisions. The result? Action that felt raw, visceral, and utterly real. Even in an era dominated by CGI, Miller proved that authenticity packs the hardest punch. But Fury Road wasn't just about spectacle. Beneath the roaring engines and blazing fireballs was a story of survival and redemption. Miller's collaboration with editor Margaret Sixel, who had never worked on an action movie, ensured the film's relentless pace was balanced with moments of emotional depth. Her work earned her an Oscar, one of 6 the film took home, a rarity for an action movie. By turning chaos into art and pushing the limits of what's impossible on screen, George Miller didn't just deliver a masterpiece, he revolutionized the action genre forever. Next we have William Friedkin, who never set out to make a horror film, but with The Exorcist, 1973, he redefined the genre forever. This wasn't just a movie about demonic possession. It was a cultural phenomenon so terrifying that audiences fainted, fled theaters, and left forever changed. Friedkin's obsession with authenticity and atmosphere made The Exorcist a masterpiece in suspense and horror. Rather than relying on cheap scares, Friedkin grounded the supernatural in everyday life, creating an unsettling realism. His slow-burn opening builds tension through atmospheric cinematography, using Georgetown's cold, shadowy streets as a chilling backdrop. But it's his raw, documentary-style camera work that truly grips viewers, making Reagan's descent into possession feel disturbingly real. Friedkin even went so far as to use extreme methods to get authentic performances, from firing guns on set to keeping the temperature on Reagan's bedroom set below freezing, so you could see the actor's breath. His innovative use of close-ups, eerie sound design, and minimalist effects prove that terror doesn't need spectacle, it thrives in subtlety. Decades later, The Exorcist remains a benchmark for horror filmmaking, both for its artistry and its audacity. Then there's Ridley Scott, whose Alien, 1979, pushed sci-fi horror into uncharted territory. With its claustrophobic tension and jaw-dropping practical effects, Scott didn't just direct a movie, he created a nightmarish experience. The iconic chestbuster scene, it wasn't just shocking, it was legendary, filmed in a single take to capture the actor's genuine reactions. Scott's obsessive world-building was key. The Nostromo wasn't just a set, it was an intricate, oppressive environment that felt alive, blending cold industrial design with eerie silence. Scott used this atmosphere to his advantage, making the quiet as terrifying as the alien itself. His slow pacing and minimalist visual style turned every shadow into a threat, every sound into a warning. By seemingly merging horror and sci-fi, Scott didn't just create a classic, he set the gold standard for tension, atmosphere, and terror in genre filmmaking. Next, there's Lars Von Trier, whose 2009 movie, Antichrist, was both horrifying and brilliant. Von Trier often involved himself in controversy because of his willingness to delve into the most terrible aspects of human nature, and Antichrist was no exception. The movie pushed the limits of both the actors and the viewers with its graphic content and emotional complexity. However, it was precisely this uncompromising approach that made Von Trier such an extreme and captivating director. Von Trier's radical vision gave Antichrist's first half enough energy and luster to support the plot. It convinced all critics that this man is capable of producing a fantastic film with the greatest expertise. Some of the visuals were pure Von Trier weirdo magic and worth experiencing, such as the sight of Gainsbourg lying on the forest floor, allowing herself to become a part of the green forest. Also, the director skillfully introduced hints of madness in its early stages with straightforward grace notes, such as pictures of the boy's shoes on the wrong feet from the previous summer, and in one of several references to The Shining, a thesis notebook, whose pages displayed a handwriting that became less coherent and turned into scribbles. Now let's move on to, and I apologize if I'm butchering this name, Alejandro Gonzalez Inarritu, and his challenging work on The Revenant, 2015. Inarritu's emphasis on using natural light and authentic settings resulted in a difficult and harsh shoot for the crew and actors. Why? Because the Alberta's wilderness was not a very hospitable environment during the winter, and reports showed that temperature during the production usually dropped below -25 degrees, with cold winds making it far worse. With that, Inarritu argued that the movie should be shot in a sequence solely in natural light. Therefore, it should come as no surprise that the production was incredibly difficult for everyone. Nevertheless, its events like the following left people questioning the morality of the production. Leaving barely any time for the team to prepare, Inarritu decided that a naked character should be dragged along the ground. Where about the actor's genitalia, many people on set spread plastic sheets to protect the actor. Later, crew members claimed that the actor felt pain, but Inarritu brushed that off as a fabrication. Moreover, according to some crew members, if at least a little of the movie's content had been produced with computer-generated effects, a great deal of suffering could have been avoided. However, the idea was, obviously, rejected by the director. Pushing the limits of storytelling and filmmaking has been a hallmark of Inarritu's career, but this time it was simply too much. And last but certainly not least, there's Christopher Nolan, whose films are renowned for their intricate storylines and creative use of practical effects. His approach to The Dark Knight was nothing but groundbreaking. He used the IMAX format for the first time in order to create stunning action and also improve the Batman suit to withstand examination from a distance. His first goal was to infuse the superhero genre, which at the time was dominated by more fantasy elements with a sense of gritty realism. With this, Nolan aimed to make Gotham City seem authentic, grounded, and as dangerous as the villains it housed. Among the most noteworthy elements of Nolan's extremism in this movie was his preference for real effects over computer-generated imagery. For instance, consider the well-known scene in which Batman flipped the semi-truck the Joker was driving. Nolan insisted on carrying out this stunt in a realistic manner. In order to create a stunning and genuine moment that left viewers in amazement, the crew created a special rig that enabled the 18-wheeler to flip end over end. As we wrap up our exploration of these groundbreaking filmmakers, it's clear that cinematic madness isn't just about technical feats. It's about a relentless pursuit of vision, an unwavering dedication to storytelling, and a willingness to take risks that others might shy away from. These directors didn't just make movies. They made us think, feel, and question. They pushed the boundaries of cinema, expanding what was possible and leaving an indelible mark on the industry. So the next time you settle in for a movie, remember the passion, the dedication, and yes, even the madness that went into bringing it to life. Every great film has a director behind it, pushing limits, taking chances, and refusing to settle for anything less than extraordinary. Isn't it amazing what can be achieved with a little bit of madness and a whole lot of passion? We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more mind-blowing content.